As a young boy growing up in San Francisco, Joel Engle never knew his father, who left the family when Joel was 1 month old. Joel's mother struggled to raise him alone.
My mom was my world. She was my life. She was my best friend. I mean, just a beautiful woman, outgoing, highly intelligent, highly, take charge person.
But when Joel was 11 years old, tragedy struck. His worst fear was realized.
I woke up and it was 7:27 in the morning and walked into the kitchen and I found my mom laying face down on the kitchen floor. And, I just absolutely just frozen in shock. So I called the ambulance. The ambulance came. They put my mom on a stretcher, and then the chief brain surgeon of Children's Hospital came in and with the most grim look on his face said, "Joel, your mother has suffered a massive cerebral hemorrhage, a massive stroke." And another doctor came in and said, "Joel, I need to tell you this. I hate to tell you this, but your mother has 30 minutes to live." People say, "What's the worst day of your life?" I can easily tell them that was the worst day of my life.
After his mother's death, Joel moved from San Francisco to Oklahoma to live with his grandparents.
My grandma and my grandpa were, my two favorite people in the world. I loved going and spending summers with them. So when I moved to Oklahoma after my mother's death, our relationship changed. They're incredibly strict, incredibly different culture, incredibly different set of values.
However, more grief lay ahead. Joel's grandfather died of a sudden heart attack. His grandmother wasn't well enough to care for Joel alone. She moved to a nursing home. Joel had no place to live, so he was forced to check himself into the local Baptist children's home.
I almost at that point had a mental breakdown. I literally remember staring at the phone, and I called information, and I got the number of the Baptist Children's Home, and I literally called them and said, "Hi, this is Joel, 14 and a half years old. I need to talk to the person who runs this place." And once again, it was those feelings of isolation. I'm thinking, let's see, my dad didn't want me, my mom died on me, my grandpa died on me, my grandma can't take care of me, and I was all alone, just me and my bags. I really felt like the whole world had abandoned me.
During his time at the children's home, Joel began to pour his energy into his greatest passion, music.
I recently discovered music and that I had talent in music, so I totally poured myself into music. There was something about that music that just lit up my heart and lit up my soul.
At age 16, Joel met Dale and Nadine Engle, close friends of his house parents. They formed a close bond, and soon, Joel was no longer an orphan. He became part of the Engle family.
When I got the news that Dale and Nadine Engle cared about me so much, loved me so much that they wanted to adopt me and move me into their home, it was just absolute joy and elation.
Joel received an abundance of love in his new home. He began to ask questions about his parents' faith in God.
I remember going and talking to Mrs. Engle. She said, "Joel, you can doubt about where you're going to go to college. You can doubt about who you're going to take to the prom. You can doubt about what you're going to do as a career, but there's one thing you don't doubt about, and that's your relationship with Jesus Christ." And about a week later, I was sitting on the back row of this little tiny small country church where the preacher was preaching on the cross of Jesus Christ. And he said, if you're willing to put your trust in what Jesus Christ did on the cross for you, to put your hope into Him as the Lord of your life, He will forgive you of all your sins. He will come into your heart and be the Lord and master of your life and change you. I went down that day and Jesus Christ came into my life, and I haven't gotten over Him yet, and I never ever will.
Today, Joel is an author and professional musician.
There's nothing like writing a song that comes out of your own heart that's real, and singing that song and then watching the lights come on in people's lives. But the healing part really is, for me, not just the writing part, but watching God use something that He did in my life into somebody else's life.
Now with a family of his own and a career of leading others in worship, Joel hopes his life story will help others to overcome their fears and live in victory.
I cannot overcome depression. I cannot overcome the anger of losing my mother. I cannot in my own strength, cannot do it. But Jesus Christ has radically changed my life. If you will just surrender your life to Jesus Christ and allow Him to live His life through you, the possibilities of what He can do in your life are endless. They're really more than you could ever imagine.